Welcome, everybody, to episode 82 of the Game Changers. I'm your host, Carla, and tonight I'm bringing the heat with none other than Darren. His knowledge and insight are sure to elevate our conversation as I dig into the game behind the game. A huge shout out to the incredible TSA team for backing this mission and amplifying voices and sparking ideas. This platform exists because of visionaries like them and listeners like you. Whether you're here for fantasy football gold or simply love stories that shift perspective, you're in the right place. The Game Changers is more than a podcast, it's a movement. Let's kick things off by getting to know my guest a little better. But before I do that, before I introduce my guest for tonight, I have two announcements to make. I want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to someone truly remarkable, my friend Jonathan, who just arrived from overseas. He's a soldier who's been serving with dedication and grit. Welcome home, brother. Your courage and sacrifice remind us of what real strength look like. I'm proud of you. I've missed you, and it's an honor to have you back. Thank you for all that you do, and to all our soldiers out there protecting our freedom. Another shout out for the sport affiliation swag. So there's sport affiliation swag going around. If you get the time, go to my Twitter page, or you can always click on affiliated swag.printful.me. Let's introduce our guest for tonight, none than Darren Armani. So, who is Darren Armani? From the baseball card shop hustle to the high stakes fantasy football spotlight, Darren Armani has always been driven by passion, precision, and a love for the game. A Penn State graduate, devoted husband for 30 years, a proud father of four, Darren balances a full time role as a certified database architect for a publicly traded software company with a relentless commitment to fantasy football, morning, noon, and night. Since 2002, Darren has been a fixture in the high stakes fantasy football scene, competing in live drafts in Las Vegas with the WCOFF until 2008, and continuing that tradition with the FFPC from 2009 onward. Same year, he launched FantasyMojo.com, a powerhouse platform delivering the most accurate and user-friendly draft data for high-stakes players across the country. But Darren didn't stop there. He created the legendary Pros versus Joe's Draft Challenge, now in its 17th year, where elite FFPC players go head to head with the biggest names in the fantasy football industry. He's also a perennial competitor in the King Classic Expert League, winning the inaugural Snake Draft in 2018 and a 13-time Scottish Bowl participant, finishing fourth overall in the 2024 regular season. Known for his bold stance on drafting high mileage running back, Darren blends data mastery with gut instinct, reshaping how serious players approach the game. His insights has become essential tools for fantasy football's most competitive. Tonight, we dive into Darren's journey from side hustles to championship rosters and explore how he's helped redefine what it means to be a game changer in the world of fantasy football. Darren, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
Excellent, Carla. Thank you for having me.
Of
I'm
course.
following up a couple of legends that you had Scott Engel and Howard Bender. I mean, those are real legends. And then now you have Darren Armani. So
Yes, you are one of those legends, Darren, and I am so honored having you tonight on the show. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate that. You have a wonderful bio, and we're gonna dig deep into all of this, starting with your fantasy football mastery. So, what's the most, um, you know, continuative strategy you've used that actually worked with you?
Uh, so I mean, there's a lot of strategies that are out there these days, and there's a lot of fads, and there's hot trends. I've always been more of a value drafter. I kind of stay centered. I stay to the middle, and it's always, you know, let the draft fall to me. Don't go too crazy, and that's worked well for me over the years. So, um,
Yes.
yeah, there's a bit like there's crazy like there's almost gimmicks that people try because people want they want, especially newer players, they want that's the silver bullet. Like, how do I win? Like, what? Tell me what to do. And then they when you play for so many years, you kind of learn from experience as
Agree.
opposed to like reading about something and then just blindly following the instructions of others. But experience from life is really more valuable and
Yeah.
just value based drafting for me.
We both know there's no silver bullet, even though the most like well-known person that knows everything about everything can make mistakes because of injuries and because of a lot of stuff that might happen when the game is there.
Yep.
So, how do you balance data analysis with gut instinct during draft?
So knowledge is power, and knowing the data, and that's kind of what my website is known for, is just providing, it's empowering the players to give them the knowledge, to give them the data to use as a foundation.
Yes.
So it's like you understand the market, you understand the values of the players, you understand the trends, and then you can apply whatever strategies you want to, but sort of the background of what it gives you, the context of what you're dealing with when you go into a draft. And I'm very specific. I kind of cater to the high stakes, um, genre.
Yes.
It's more of a niche. I mean, these are players who are, they'll put down between $350 and $2,000, and some even $10,000 a draft. So,
Right.
when I talk to these guys when I go to Vegas, when I go to the live drafts, I mean, they tell me it's kind of flattering. They tell me how invaluable a resource that I am to them, because if you're very serious, they grind every edge, and these guys are like, there's professionals. So I like to say, I mean, and honestly, I've helped people become millionaires. I wish I was a millionaire from my own data, but there's literally players who have attributed me to helping them win some pretty
Hit
big
me
prize.
up. Hit me up.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to do it yourself, but you have to have the proper information at your disposal. So
True.
yeah.
I agree. I agree. So, what's one fantasy football myth you wish would disappear?
A myth. Wow.
Yes.
Um. Well, I guess cliche would be players are injury prone. Maybe is a myth that
Thank
I
you.
wish you know would disappear.
Yep. I
Uh,
agree.
so every player is good at the right price. So if you have that opinion, well then go with your own risk. Go with the risk. So Christian McCaffrey is an example of that. So
Yes.
would you, if you feel like he's injury prone, well then maybe you don't want to spend an early pick on a draft on him. Um, so maybe that's something, just one thing. That's a tough question. Like there's probably a lot of myths. I got to be careful. I don't want to insult certain people. Like there's probably some other myths running around, but I don't want to.
I love that. No, but
Yeah.
I love your answer because I'm with you. There's I'm with you on that. How do you approach risk management in high stakes draft?
Risk management. Well, it depends. Like I always say, people become more aggressive
Yes.
with their strategies the more money that they have on the line. So, and like so let's talk like at the bottom of the totem pole, like a mock draft. you don't have anything. You have no skin in the game. You don't have anything on the line. So people are just they'll do things that they wouldn't normally do if they had money invested into it. And then
Yeah.
as you know, and I'm catering to high stakes players. So the more money that they invest in these teams, the more serious they're going to take these drafts, and they're going to, again, they like to have the data to know what the market is, but they can leverage that. For instance, if they know like a certain player will typically go in the middle of the second round or third round, they can then jump the market to get the players that they want. And you see more and more of that as the entry fees go up in the drafts in the high stakes space. So that's one way to kind of manage the risk, is it's kind of dictated by the amount of money that you have on the line, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate breakout potential versus proven consistency?
I guess you have to have a little bit of vision. Maybe follow some trends, some patterns that you see in players. So consistency, and like Bob Lung, he's like a big consistency guy. So
Yeah.
you want consistent players in certain cases, and then you want you know breakouts. There's actually data, and I do less of that type of analytics. There's a lot of data out there on.
Agree.
Usually you hear it around like wide receivers, like they'll break out in the second or third year. But there's actually data out there that you can leverage to kind of drive those decisions for you. I tend not to do too much of that personally. I'm more of a current snapshot type of guy. Like, what are the current values of the players, and then kind of just go off of that with maybe some of the breakout analytics in the background, keeping in mind, like, like certain running backs or receivers, they'll tend to, break out in the earlier years, and to have lower expectations in, sort of their rookie seasons. But sometimes you don't see it coming. But
Yeah,
there's we specialize in that type of data as well.
I agree. So, talking about all of this, what's the biggest mistake smart players still make still today, in your opinion?
Wow, biggest mistake. Maybe taking the advice of other people, or maybe blaming other people. Ultimately, you got to be accountable for the decisions that you make, for the picks that you make, and be aggressive. Like, you own the team. You're accountable for the decisions that you make on that. So, and don't have regrets coming out of a draft. So I always say, if you follow ADP, then you're going to come away with a team that looks very plain and very generic, and you might not get the players that you want, because if you're not willing to take risks, especially at the higher dollar levels, no risk, no reward type of philosophy, I would say. So
Agree.
be willing to take some risks, and ultimately, you own your decisions. So be aggressive when you need to. Don't rely on sort of the complacency of others
I
to
love that.
benefit you. Always be aggressive.
Yeah, I love it. So, Sniper Pal is asking you a question before we go on to data and analysis. Do you believe in curses?
Do I believe in curses? I think so. I believe in the karma of the fantasy gods, for sure.
Karma. I do believe in that too.
Yeah. Do I believe in curses? Yeah, I would say I believe. I think so, a little bit. Yeah, there's definitely some curses around there.
So
Maybe
let's
that's
talk. Yeah,
injury
go
prone. But there's players that are just cursed.
I know.
Mhm.
I know. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about data and strategy. What's the most surprising insight you've uncovered from draft data?
Surprising. Well, you never know what you're going
Yeah.
to find. So I'll tend to go back and look at patterns of success in a prior year. And a lot of times you'll be surprised what you find. Like sometimes some of the craziest strategies, some of the biggest outliers in draft strategy can be the most successful. Although the sample size on those can be very small. But you know, there's all kinds of anomalies out there that you find. And so I mean, it's just you never know what you're going to find. So if you go looking for something, you'll definitely find it.
Yeah.
Those.
And how is your background in database architecture shaped Fantasy Mojo?
So, I mean, it's all data driven. I graduated with a degree in computer science,
Right.
and kind of as my career evolved, I became more focused on the data side of it. So, building databases, consuming data, data streams, designing data structures, and then being able to query the data. It's more prevalent now. Like they call it data analytics. But to be
Yeah.
honest with you, I've been doing it for like 30 years.
Wow.
They just now they have a fancy name for it. But you know, people have been doing it for years. And just the ability to consume large amounts of data and then extract like I said, like the patterns, and then just more or less being able to aggregate large volumes of data to come up with on my site. It's very we take large volumes of data and make it very presentable and very easy for people to
Yes.
consume. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why people kind of prefer the way it's the presentation, how I present the data, because I'm a high stakes player first, right? So I
Yes.
already know the mindset. I know what these guys are looking for, because originally when I started the site, I was building this stuff for myself. Like this is the way I need the data presented and summarized to help me during drafts. And it's basically, you know, a lot of the players all like to consume data the same way. Now you have certain people who get like into very deep analytics, but I'd say 90% of the players, they kind of go off of the same sort of spreadsheets, and like ADP is sort of the big thing. And then, you know, just being able to take large quantities of data, summarize it, and index it in such a way that people can find the information that they're looking for very quickly. Its ease of use is sort of
Yeah.
what we do here. So, yeah.
So, how do you visualize trends before they become obvious to others, Darren?
Well, so for one specific example is we have these scatter plots on the website. So we have ADP pages for every type of contest that the FFPC offers. So they got
Yeah.
best ball, they got the big gorilla tournament. They're all different kind of contest formats. So you can have your ADP, but then the ADP is kind of a general number. It's an average, which may not be as meaningful as looking at the data points that went into creating that average. So what we allow you to do is when you're looking at our ADP, if you click on the players button, it brings up, I call it the scatter plot diagram, and it plots every data point of where a player was taken. So then
Yeah.
you can visually see it's not just a static number like, you know, round 3.5. You can see how the data points sort of evolve over a time period, and you can see the trend. And at this time of year, when you get into the training camps, there's a lot of news flying around, and it can really change people's opinions on players very quickly. And so
Yeah.
literally overnight, it's kind of like the stock market. The price can go up. And you're not going to see that in a generic ADP number necessarily. But if you look at a scatter plot, you're going to see a spike, kind of just like when you're looking at a stock chart. You see a spike in price, right? It's the same
Yes.
type of thing. So if you're tuned into things at a lower level like that, you can stay ahead of the trends, and be grabbing the players that where the demand is up before other people.
Wow, that makes it makes a lot of sense. I I love that. So before we go to pros versus Joes, I want to know what's the most underrated stat in fantasy football in your opinion?
Underrated stat. Uh, I guess it depends what format you're playing. Um, Underrated statistic.
If you want to talk about specific format that you really like and talk about that, it's up to you, definitely.
Yeah. So I think uh, points per game. I think to kind of not get too complicated, like a general example, points per
Yeah,
game can be very insightful as opposed to just usually what people do is they look at total points of a player scored at the end of the year and then they rank them accordingly. But if you look at the components that fed into that overall number, you'll see spikes, you'll see very high, like, and it kind of feeds into like what Bob Long says about consistency. You can have a player, so say somebody gets 200 points. Well, if you just scored 10 points every week for 20 weeks, that's not very exciting. But if you have somebody who maybe scores 30 and then like, maybe 10 and then like spikes like that, the knowledge of that can influence your preference for that player depending on the type of format that you're playing in. A player who
right.
does that it may be more difficult to start on a week-to-week basis, as opposed to somebody who has like a more kind of consistent output and is less volatile. But I mean, the volatile players can also, um, you know, can help you, especially in best ball. They call them the spike week players. You hear the term like this guy's better in best ball. That's because he has a tendency to kind of have really big games and then quiet games. So
Yeah.
points per game, I think, is really kind of a general stat like that.
So talking about that, and I've seen it a lot, through the game, especially in fantasy football. When you pick that player and that player brings you a higher points, it comes to a point that sometimes I pick that player, even though I know that he might not give me points, but he did that week. And then I take him and I put him again on the week after and after, and it happens that he got injured. How do you look into that? That you will not fall into this like this mistake because he gave me already like a lot of points. Should I play him again, or should I like look at my sheet and whatever I put ahead of time of my thoughts
Well,
into the game?
yeah, I mean, usually those players you can identify them like by looking at their history. They
Yes.
don't all of a sudden become erratic like that. Like they kind of have that profile coming in. So if you draft a player like that, you kind of know what you're getting yourself in, and that's why you have to be informed about,
Yes.
like I said, average points per game. Um, those players can be very frustrating. There's certain players that who have that profile, and you seem to always start them on the wrong week because they'll score 20 points. They were on your bench, and the next week you put them in the lineup and they give you 4, and then you take them off you put it back on the bench and they score 20 again. I mean, it can be very frustrating. So a lot of people will just kind of avoid those players.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen that.
yeah, so history usually gives you some sort of clue as to if that's the type of player you're dealing with there. Yeah.
Got it. I love that. I want to talk a little bit about pros and versus Joes and the competitive edge, especially that you started that, you created that. So, what was the inspiration that when you created pros versus Joes?
So originally there was Pros versus Joes. This is our 17th year,
Yeah.
but before that, my website was part of something that was called the Fantasy Players Network. And this is like way in the early days of fantasy football websites. We're talking like this is, you had Greg Kellogg on, I think,
Yes,
and
I
like
did.
Fantasy Taz, and like those are the OGs. And I I got the websites that were part of that network together, and I said, let's have a tournament. And so we set up 3 leagues with the representative from each league, and we all competed against each other. Which back then was kind of like you didn't see people do. Now it's kind of like common, like you see expert leagues. But back then there weren't really a lot of expert leagues, and this was before Scott Fishbowl even started doing that.
Wow.
Um, but then when I started playing in FFPC, I thought, well, what if we take the players, like the average, the Joes who play in these uh, high stakes leagues, and we'll let them compete against the industry people from the websites. And it was a popular concept. So we started then, and because a long time ago, there's, I would say, something unique to or in the old days in the high stakes space. There was a little bit of a resentment from the players. They felt they see the peak guys on the websites who are getting the attention, are being held in high regard as the experts.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of respect from the players, because they're like, we're the ones putting up tons of money and like really competing heavily, and these guys are more just sort of providing opinions, but they're kind of self-proclaimed experts. So then that was like, okay, well, let's put these guys together and let's see who's really who's better when it comes to
Better.
draft. But they're really, it's a different skill set. Like, it's not that one person is better than the other. It's just some people are good at broadcasting or writing content, and other players are good competing in leagues.
Yes.
So it's really it's different skill sets, and there's very few people who can do both really well. Like,
Really?
you can be like a great content creator, but then when you compete in the league, it's hard to do both because you have to focus. What's your specialty? Like,
Yeah.
what is your expertise? You can't be an expert at everything, and you can only dedicate so much time. So there's a few guys who straddle that line. Like Doug is one of those guys. He's really good at competing in leagues, but then he's also a good content creator. There's other guys like Peter Overzet's really good. Dwayne McFarland is really good. But a lot of those guys, they came through the high stakes streets. Like, they competed in high stakes fantasy football and then went into content creation. There's other people, like anybody can like start up a YouTube channel,
I
right?
agree.
But and they may not be as battle tested when they go and compete in league, especially against, so pros versus Joes is like the real hardcore players against the biggest names in the industry. And we've been
Yeah.
doing it for so long. People love it. So it's a showcase event, and it's people love being invited to it. So
I love that. How do you select the Joes each year?
the Joes is done by a lottery. Um, so specifically in the FFPC, their main event contest, that's the $2,000 per team entry. So what they do is, if you sign up early for the main event, every time you buy a team, you get essentially like a ping pong ball for the lottery. So if you buy 10 teams to compete in the main event, you get 10 ping pong balls for the lottery. And then I think the early bird special ends like in late May, and then they take all of the entries and they randomize them, and they picked 42 names. And that's how it's picked by lottery. So sometimes people get frustrated. They're like, hey, I bought 10 teams and I still didn't make it, into the contest. And meanwhile, there's some other guys who made it, just had one, and they, it's luck of the draw, really. So it's the fairest way that they came up with to do it year after year. But then on the pro side, it's by invitation. I get together with the owners of the FFPC,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like a selection committee that we go through. you know, a list of candidates, and then we kind of extend them, not all at once, but we kind of like send out the invites as we go along. So that's kind of how the players are chosen for this.
That's nice. I'm gonna take a little bit of like a fun way of doing things right now, especially that JJ is putting the balls in, asking you if Doug is a smart person that he can do both. Is he
Yeah,
though? And Mel is saying that it's because of me, because of me, definitely. I teach him a lot of this stuff. So just letting you know what's going on in there.
Doug has only gotten better since he's been in your circles.
Oh, I love you. Thank you, Darren. Hear that, Doug.
Right.
I love that. Oh my God. I always tell him I'm his lucky charm. So
Yeah,
just,
good influence on Doug. He's
oh,
performed better in King's Classic ever since you've entered his circles. So,
I appreciate that. Thank you. So, what's the most memorable matchup in Pros versus Joe's history?
the most memorable matchup. Well, I would say maybe there's some very memorable teams, um, because it's a best ball tournament, so you're not playing head to head against another
Yeah.
team each week. It's kind of like 12 teams. They just at the end of the year, who has the most points wins the league. But we had one team many years ago, and the funny thing is, you get people in this competition sometimes who aren't really comfortable with the best ball format, and or even like, so there was this pro, his name's Tim McCullough,
Yeah.
and I forget who he wrote for. So he drafts. This is a tight end premium format, and this is when the draft was 28 rounds. So it was like a real grind for people, because you're drafting kickers and defenses back in the day. So
Wow.
tight end premium, 28 rounds, and he drafts one tight end on his whole team, just one.
Wow.
And like the guy's going to be on a bye week, so he's taking a zero, and for 1 week, and if he gets hurt, he's sunk. Well, it turns out he ends up winning his league, and not only wins his league, he wins like the overall competition. He scored more points than anybody else, because that was like Antonio Gates when he was in his. I think that was the year that he broke out, and he just blew the squad away. And that was also the year that Odell Beckham was a rookie, and he had just drafted Odell Beckham kind of like as a shot in the dark, and that
Really?
was the league winning pick. But it didn't hurt him that he only drafted one tight end. Now that's crazy in this format. So that's kind of
Wow.
the one that kind of sticks out to me. Is like, we still scratch our heads like how he managed to pull that off.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome. So I don't know too much about pros versus Joes. So please let me know and give me some knowledge about it, because I want to ask this question. Is it only guys teams? Because Joe's, it's guys. And if it's only guys in your teams, are you planning on doing something for women in the industry? Especially that women right now, there are, they're playing the game and they're putting their names out there, to say the
yeah.
least.
No, we have Stacy Perez. She competes.
Nice.
She's been competing, I think, for the last 3 years, and we've had, what's her name? Red
I like it.
Rider, a high stake. There's a lot of female high stakes players
Yeah.
on the Joe side. So we had Shelly Fossum. She's really good. I'm trying to remember the other pro, but I mean, there's fewer in this space because they tend to pick pros that are familiar, like, and any of these guys, like they usually pick people who are familiar with the FFPC format, people who do
Got it.
content around, because it is a promotional vehicle for the FFPC. So Stacy's like a big advocate for that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll certainly. There's been mention of some other ones too. That each year we always mix in a few new people. So probably as we go along, I mean, more
Nice.
women. It's kind of just
No, it's good to know. Good to
Yeah,
know. I like that.
they're in there, but they're just not as frequent. Kind of like the fantasy football space in general.
Yeah,
They're just sort of they're lesser volumes of them right now. So, but yeah, no problem. We could in the future
I
you'll
like
probably
that.
see more of them. Now,
Yeah,
if Doug schools
maybe
you up, then
uh,
maybe you have that chance in the future. So,
maybe pros versus Josephine or something. I don't know.
yeah,
I love that. Um, have any Joes gone on to become industry experts after that?
yeah. There's a lot of them. So, and like I said, a lot of the FFPC high stakes players kind of cross and go over into content creation. There's a
Wow.
ton of them. So, more recently, Theo Greminger was a high stakes player, like really
Yeah.
great high stakes player, and now he went on to do. Um, he's with Fantasy Points now, but then he was with Player Profiler. There's these guys, Dan Williamson. Um, they were doing the Goat District, which was sort of a smaller uh, podcast, but very well known. And he's another one. There's so many of them. I think, like I said, Peter Overset, Pat Corain. I mean, they were high stakes players.
Wow.
Who else? Sean Siegel was a high stakes player,
Yeah.
and then he's like, I think he owns Rotoviz now. There's a ton of them. So, but they
That's
tend to cross over. Like once you get a name
yeah.
as a great player, there's opportunities for you because people see how much knowledge that you have. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of high stakes players, the demographic is they're sort of they're a little bit older. In
Yeah.
many cases, they call them the boomers. I think that's what we're stereotyped as the boomers.
Yeah.
But they tend to be less. They tend to be more guarded. Like a lot of them, they don't want to give away their secrets because they're making money,
Out of
um,
it.
making big money. Like
Yeah.
they don't necessarily want to share their strategies. So, and one of the greatest players in the world. Like there are guys who could easily write for sites. They're just not going to do it because it's too lucrative for them to be winning. Like Chad Schrader is maybe the greatest player, and
Wow.
that guy, he could start his own website if he wanted to, but he's just
So
he's too good.
secretive.
I, yeah, he's too good at it. It's more lucrative rather than share all the all. Like
Wow.
Willy Wonka to share his candy making secrets with people. Like you don't
Oh,
necessarily want
come
to
on.
do that.
I want to become a billionaire. Come on. I need to start playing.
Yeah,
I need
well,
those stuff.
you can start small and you can work your way up sometimes.
So, what's the biggest upset you've seen in pros versus Joes? I know that we always talk about like the good stuff everywhere, good people, everything. Is there a biggest upset that you have encountered at pros versus Joes at some point?
Um, I think every year it's always tight in each individual league. There's a lot of leagues that it's really tight,
Yes.
and sometimes players think that they have it in the bag, but any given week, kind of like you were talking earlier, like certain players can have crazy spike weeks, and players can get leapfrogged in that final week because maybe they have a team that scores, 200 some odd points, and then their team lets down, and it happens all the time. So it's never over till it's over
Yeah.
in those leagues. I think, well, I won my league last year, but it was a very sort of unexpected circumstance. It was Marvin Mims had like a really great week 17, and Tyler Conklin, like these unsung heroes, like you wouldn't have never expected, kind of
Right.
these career performances. But that was bad for the team that I leapfrogged. So yeah, sometimes you deal a disappointment, sometimes you receive a disappointment.
Agree. How do you keep the format fresh after 17 years?
Mixing up the players, like I said, we always mix in a few new pros each year.
Yeah.
Um, And then, like, because the Joes are always sort of selected at random, you're always getting, it's not the same faces every year. It's so the people are always excited when they get picked. It's one of the, they do the lottery, and then on the FFPC has a Friday night show, and then they announce it's like NCAA basketball selection night, right, where everybody tunes in to see like who got picked. So yeah, that's probably would be
Right.
that.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's really cool. So, what did winning the King Classic Snake Draft teach you? And are you going to the Expo this year?
So when I won the first year, and that was when it wasn't an
Pre-COVID.
expo. It was just 24 guys showed up at the Hall of Fame, and
I heard about that.
we all stayed at the it was the Embassy Suites, which was
Nice.
north of town. And we're just like hanging out in the lobby. Say, hey, what's going on? Like, I don't know. We're going to go draft in the Hall of Fame or something. And we went there, and there was no expo. It was just like, so they had the two leagues, and they had the one league. We call it the A League and the B League. So the A League drafted in the Hall of Fame, the Jacket Lounge, the Gold Jacket Lounge, I think it is. And then we drafted in the media room, which I thought was a much cooler room because it had like scoreboards and it had all this crazy audio visual stuff. So yeah, so then we had the two leagues, and then we just did the draft, and then everybody just went to Buffalo Wild Wings after, and it was just us 24 guys, and then I think you had Sally Kurjan on at one
Yes,
point, so
yes, I did.
her and Don show up like because they're
They're
local, and somehow
awesome.
they caught wind of this, and like they're like hanging out with us, so Don and Sally were like, that was the fan club. It was just those two and all of us, and we were just having the best time. And
Crazy.
but it was cool because, and so as part of that weekend, again, it was just us 24. We all went to, or most of us went to the Cleveland Browns preseason game. So I'm sitting there, like nobody knows who I am. So I'm sitting there with Mike Clay and Josh Hayes, Mike Tagliere, and Brad Evans, and we're just like hanging out at the game. And that was a cool weekend because I spent most of my weekend kind of palling around with Mike Tagliere because I had a car because I drive. So I was like driving him all over the place. So that was really memorable. But yeah, so I did win that league, but that was when it was 12 teams. It wasn't 14 teams. So it was now it's much harder to win, in my opinion.
It is.
The 14 team
I've
format.
seen it.
Yeah.
But
So
always the B team, the B team have the best like stuff ever at the
the,
King Classic.
the B team
So
we got the best vibe, right?
yes,
We're
I
the fun
agree.
group.
It hasn't always been the fun group. Now this year I'm gonna be with the A team. So let's
I
see how it's
know.
gonna be.
So Doug got promoted up to the
He
A
got
team,
promoted.
and he's
He got
yeah.
promoted this year. So let's
So
see how it's gonna go.
yeah, that's cool. So actually, I'm not making it to the expo this year. This is the first year I'm going to
No.
miss. Yeah,
Why? I
I
mean,
have to go
if
to.
you wanna share.
No, so my daughter goes to University of South Carolina,
Yes, I love
and
that.
that same weekend she's moving from one apartment to another, and I have to be there because the whole move it's very involved, so I
It's
can't.
crazy. It is
So I called
crazy. I
Bob
tell
Long,
you,
and he's like, he understands. He has daughters.
of
Um,
course.
been through the same thing, so I'm going to miss it. Hopefully, I'll be back next year. Yeah.
We're gonna
Or I
miss
could
you
say I
so
was
much.
sad because Doug moved to the A team, and then I'm so distraught. I can't draft.
Just
So
give
without
him
Doug,
the win, right? Just give him
yeah,
the win this year, because he's saying that he's not forgetting that you won that year.
yeah,
He
he
was
was
talking all
angry.
about it.
Yeah, I think that I beat him in the finals. I forget.
I think so. I think he went that year too.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Doug. There, in the
but he got a
chat.
belt. He won. So there are guys
Yeah,
who've never won who've been playing the whole time. So it's when you get the chance, like it is something special to win. So it's right there.
Yeah, it is. It is.
There's
And
no.
he did.
Yeah.
He have a belt. I think
Yeah.
it was like 3 years ago. Yeah, he did win the King's Classic at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to climb that mountain. It's tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. I agree. So how do you prepare for your top five finish in the 2024 Scotch Fish Bowl? How did you prepare for that?
I just well every year Scott he changes the scoring parameters,
Yeah.
and I have my own system for uh, coming up with my draft sheet um, for that. So what I'll do is they'll have they run those leagues on My Fantasy League or Sleeper. So I'll go to the My Fantasy League site, and then the player stats they'll have all the player stats for the previous year or not,
Yeah.
from the previous year, but in that scoring format for the current year. So then you can see like which players are the highest scorers in that scoring format. So then I'll overlay this year's players with those positionally ranked on top of the point scores, and that's kind of how I do it. But I've always been like we were talking earlier. Like some people like will follow trends and whatnot, and people get caught up in that. There's a lot of newer players in Scott Fishbowl, and I think they'll maybe they're more apt to follow some trends. But like I'm a value drafter, and I'm not afraid to draft my running backs. So and last year was a very good year for running backs. So I had Derrick Henry, and who else I had? I had a couple other guys. So I stayed true to myself, and I said I'm sticking with the running backs. Everybody's like running away from them. So I'm going to stick with these guys, and also tight ends. It's always usually a tight end premium format. So I'm pretty familiar with how to play the tight ends in that type of format, and it just worked out. I mean, I was in the top 10 the whole year, and so I finished the regular season in the top 4. But then it does that. Then once the playoffs come, it doesn't matter anymore. Like because then everybody's just sort of it's an elimination, and if you have one bad week, you're out. So I didn't quite make it to the end, but that was I mean out of 4,000 people, that was pretty cool to be
Wow.
that way. Yeah.
That's amazing. I
So
can't
always
believe it.
draft your running backs. Stick to old dusty running backs. That's the way to go. Like if nobody wants them, don't be afraid. They'll sometimes they'll still work out for you.
So talking about, like finishing top and winning the King Classic and everything. Have you ever had a season where everything went wrong and what did you do and what did you learn from that?
Everything went wrong. Um,
Yeah.
well, I tend to never give up. So I don't know that I've ever had like a terrible finish. Um, but so you just always have to grind. It's a mindset. So if you grind the leagues, even in like your worst position or like your worst scenarios, like that's gonna be like it's the cliche, hard work pays off. Like never give up, just play it out. And you want to play it out too because you want it to be fair for the other players in the leagues. Like you see a lot of times people they do poorly in leagues and then they abandon the teams, and that's not right because that can influence the outcomes of the teams in the tournament as well. So
Yeah.
always play it straight and you know just keep it fair for everyone. You know.
Yeah. So what's your proudest fantasy football moment or what's your favorite draft memory from Las Vegas?
Mm, wow, so many years. I think
Yeah.
the so well last year was pretty cool. Um, so we draft after so we're there like the NFL opening weekend, and they have games on Thursday night. NFL has games on Thursday night, and then you can actually draft. They'll draft Friday and Saturday. You can draft the players knowing the outcome of what they did on Thursday night.
Yeah.
So last year, Saquon Barkley went a little crazy in that Thursday night game, and all of a sudden his value skyrocketed, and I took him I had the second pick in the draft, or I had the second pick in the draft, and I before that game I was convinced I was taking Christian McCaffrey, but then after
Wow.
that game I got lucky, and the guy who's drafting number one took Christian McCaffrey, so I ended up taking Saquon Barkley, and it paid off nicely. So I made it. I took that team into the championship round, and we won. We won some nice. We didn't win the whole thing. I mean, everything has to go perfect for you to win the overall championship, to win the $1 million. Like, you have to make every right lineup decision. You have to like steer clear of injuries. You have to hit the right players on the waiver wire. It's got to be a perfect storm. And so, I mean, I didn't have that, but it's always fun to chase that. But that was a fun time because it's always funny that the day after that game happens, and then everybody's totally changing what they did from the day before. So it's pretty. And then in the original WCOFF 2002, that was the first. That was sort of the launch of high stakes fantasy football. Is when they advertised in a magazine the World Championship of Fantasy Football, like fly to Vegas, right?
Yes.
And so I think it was, I forget what hotel it was held at, but it's like all these fantasy football nuts who like flock to Vegas, and then they're all drafting in the ballroom. If you've never been, you've probably seen like smaller versions of that in Canton. Like, I think they have draft night out where there's like maybe 6 or 10 leagues.
Yes.
Kind of drafting at once, but this is like that on steroids. So there'll be like 50 tables in a giant Vegas ballroom with 12 people sitting around each table and the giant draft boards, and they're all drafting at the same time. You hear the names being called out all around you. And I got my ass kicked in that first year. Like,
Crazy.
when you start playing in high stakes, like, you're taking it to the next level, because most time people are playing in home leagues.
Yeah.
And you might be good in your home league, but then you're really like playing against people. It makes you better. Like, you usually take your lumps. It's a learning curve.
True.
But I
I
got
love
my
that.
butt kicked. I think I took Dante Culpepper in the first round, and that was like a disaster. We didn't know what we were doing, but it was
Oh,
fun. So
fun is good. Fun
yeah,
is good. Let's go a little bit on rapid fire brain blender. So I'm gonna ask you a question and like just tell me which one is your favorite. Snake draft or auction?
I prefer snake draft. I don't mind auction. I'll do auction, but I prefer snake draft because
I love
for
that
me,
too.
it's easier to prepare for. And I
Agree.
like to study. I like to do my preparation. Auction, anything, it's too many unexpected things can happen. It's crazy.
And you
I
don't
do
have
well in those
the
as well.
money sometimes
Yeah,
for it. Yeah.
there's more skill in an auction, I would say.
Yes.
Um, but a snake draft is more like taking a test that you can prepare for.
I agree. I love that. I've been there sitting with the snake draft and you can take your time, which is really good.
Yeah,
And they go back to back to you, which is awesome. RB heavy or zero RB?
zero RB is that was, I think, as I was telling Doug on the other stream
Yeah.
earlier tonight. I think zero RB is on life support this year. I mean, so many, and like, I mean, we talked about people who want to be told what's the silver bullet, what's the strategy of what to do. I
Yeah.
think too many people bought into that last year, and I run numbers on how many people are doing those types of roster constructions, and it's down by 50% this year. So fewer people. They're the diehards who will swear by it and they'll keep doing it. But I think the people who felt like that was the cheat code to win, and they took a beating last year. I mean, it was a miserable result for people who
Lots of
adopted that
injuries.
strategy. Yeah,
Lots of injuries last year.
and they
You
may. To
think
be
that's
honest,
why zero RB this year?
I'll do it. So, like I said, I'm a value drafter. So,
Yep.
depending on the draft, if that's the way the players are falling to me, I will do it. But too many people, I think, swear by it and they'll do it no matter what. That was where we were at with that. People were going in the draft and they were like, I'm doing zero RB no matter what because that's the way to win. and it didn't pay off. So I think we're back to people are like a little bit more centered now. Dude,
Yeah.
just don't be so extreme sometimes.
You never know in
Yeah.
fantasy football. You never know. Sleeper pick or safe bet?
Um, what was that again?
Sleeper pick or safe bet?
Sleeper pick
Or safe bet?
or safe pick?
Bet.
Oh, safe bet. Um, oh, you want my sleeper pick? Is that what you're
Which
asking?
one you want? You go with sleeper pick or you go with a
Oh,
safe bet.
no, you have. I mean, like we were talking before, like you have to take shots. You mix it. I mean, you do both, right?
Okay.
So you need a stable foundation sometimes, but um, you want the core of your team, but then everybody's taking shots in the dark. They have their sleeper lists, and those are the guys. Those will be the league winners. Like and most times to win the league, you have to not mess things up early on, right? You have to take the safe bets and be fortunate enough that they do what you expect them to do. But then everybody's doing that, so then it comes down to who who hit on their sleeper picks, and then those are typically will be your league winners, and that's that's where a lot of the research will come in, um, and people can get steered one avenue down the other depending on who they're listening to. Again, the nature of content creation and whatnot these days is everybody's giving their hot takes,
Yeah.
and you got to be careful who you listen to, and like we're saying, be accountable. Like if you don't blame
Do your
somebody,
work.
don't come back the year like next year and say you told me like this guy. And I don't agree with that. You see a lot of that, people getting ridiculed for bad picks that they made. Like, well, you shouldn't have listened to him then
I agree.
um, if that's what you were going to do. So like, be your own person, make your own decisions.
Yeah, and people there, like everybody can make a mistake. We're human being at the end.
Yeah,
Even if you search on AI right now, and if they give you a name, who you gonna blame? AI. So
yeah.
um, do your
And
work. I
at
agree,
the
one
end of the
hundred
day,
percent
it's all a game. It's just
true.
it's fake football. It's a hobby. Like you don't have to take it. It's not serious. Like it's not going to change your life because of a bad performance in
You win
fantasy.
money definitely, but yeah, yes, I agree.
Yep.
So you go with dynasty or redraft? Which one you pick? Which is
I'm not
better
much
for
of a
you?
dynasty player. I
No?
respect the dynasty players, but that is so I'm more redraft. Um,
Yeah,
but I respect the dynasty players because they put in so much time. That consumes their life doing that. I'm in a couple dynasty leagues,
yeah.
and they probably don't like me because I'm not as active in that. They like dynasty players like really active league mates, and I just finding the time for it is difficult. But
That's
those are
crazy.
those people are really passionate. And
Yeah,
it's funny. Another expo story for you. So I think of the second year of the expo, I did a one of the breakout sessions, and I did it on high stakes fantasy football, and it was a reality check of how popular dynasty football is because
yeah.
I had like maybe 10 people who came to my breakout session. And then I looked down the hall and I saw a packed room and people lined up down the hall, like just trying to get into this thing. And I saw it again. And like these were the dynasty sessions. Like it is a magnet. Like so much, uh, I would say the people who are going to the expo are really starved. Like they're going there for dynasty content, a lot of them. So the dynasty sessions are really popular, and they're really rabid fan. Like Snake. I guess you can redraft information. It's more easily obtained, generally through the internet and whatnot. But yeah, redraft guys, they're like really they're big. They're passionate about it.
Well, I go to the expo to see my friends, to see you guys,
Yeah,
give you hugs and talk to you. so I don't
It's a
I
big.
don't do all of this.
It is a so. It's more of a social function uh,
100%.
than a learning experience. It's definitely like it's a weekend of partying for the most
Yes,
part.
I love it. Yeah, I really love that. You connect with people from all over, and it's such a wonderful space to talk about football, to talk about the person, about their life, and um, instead of staying behind the microphone, you can see them face to face, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
and it's really it's a reality check that
Yeah,
because when everybody's on Twitter and they're fighting with each other and like you're anonymous, it's really toxic sometimes. But
yes,
then you go there and like everybody's just really cool. Like if you meet these people, you're like, hey, it's all good. Like you have to see people in person and to
you
like
see
really
the truth.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
truth. So I want to ask you about your day. Like, what's a day in your life during draft season, especially that you are married and you have 4 kids. So how take me a little bit through your day of your life, Darren.
So yeah. Well, fortunately, my kids are grown up. I
Yes,
got one more year of college to pay for, and then I'm done with the 4 kids. So thank God. So they're mostly out of the house. But the day starts. I'll wake up like 5 a.m. and I'll
oh,
do. I have to do updates for the website. Like people are counting on me every morning
of
to
course.
have that updated. So then I'll do that. It takes me a couple of hours, and then I'll do my day job, and I'm totally committed to that. So I'm not disillusioned that this fantasy thing is anything more than sort of a side gig. I love my job, and so then that goes to maybe five or six on a normal day, and then it's back doing the data for the website at night. Um, so that's kind of the routine, and it's every day, and it's every day like beginning in January. So I'm doing this every day until we get to this. As soon as the season starts,
Yeah.
then the drafts are done. So life gets a little bit easier. So I'm not having to do that every now. Then I'm just having to worry about grinding the waiver wire on Wednesday nights, putting in the picks for to pick up players, and I'm not competing with Doug at 4 a.m. when he's so. How is this guy always awake at 4 a.m. getting first come first serve off of the ESPN waiver wire? I'm like, these guys are vampires.
Don't get me started.
I don't know if does he wake up? Is he just always up? I don't. When does he sleep? I don't know. But he's always
He
getting
sleeps like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
wow,
Yeah.
a night owl.
It's, we're both night owls, but I have to sleep because I'm a school teacher. But he stays like up till like I leave for work and he's still up. He's still up.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I can't do that. It's just tough
Yeah,
to stay awake that late.
it is.
Bless them.
Um, let me ask you some like fun because we're already like hit the hour, and I want to be respectful for your time because you did a lot today too, and I know that you're tired. What's your fantasy football spirit animal?
My spirit animal.
Yeah.
Hmm. So like, well, I don't know. Give me an example. Like, I want to make sure I answer this right. So it's
Any animal that you have, like your fantasy
oh,
football spirit animal. So what kind of spirit animal would you like a
um,
dragon or a lion, a tiger? It's up to you. What's your spirit animal? Everyone has something like they love.
well, I'll go with a monkey for data monkey, right? So
Oh,
always you see the meme with the monkey on the computer. I mean, that's kind of that's kind of what
I
it's all
love
about. It's all about the data. Always staying active. It's like there's no sleeping.
yeah, yeah.
Always
So
moving.
if you could draft any historical figure into a fantasy football league, who would it be?
Any historical figure? Um. Wow. I guess it would have to be some sort of some warrior. Like I couldn't come up with like a specific one, but like maybe some famous general, in the past that that's
Yeah,
that's that's somebody
that's nice.
who goes to battle, and
Yeah,
'cause every day is a fight. Like, and that's the thing about being successful in high stakes. You have to be a
really.
grinder. You have to grind every edge, and
Yeah,
you can never let up because if you miss the margin of error is so small. If you
yeah,
make one, if you get lazy and you miss like setting the lineup one time, or if
that's
you
it.
don't put in a waiver, that can be the difference between thousands of dollars winning a league. Because at the end of the year, when to get into the playoffs, and at least in the high stakes leagues, one
Yeah,
of the things is the most points, and you'll see it every year. Somebody will miss getting into the playoffs, an opportunity to make thousands of dollars because of like 1 point. And if you had taken it easy one night and just not worked as hard as you could have, then you'll regret it. You'll always loathe that one time, that one night that you just didn't do it, and that cost you. You could have spent hundreds of hours, but the one time you let up for 10 minutes, that was what cost you this season, because you're competing with people who they'll do it. They're like almost professionals.
yeah,
Um, and that's their life, a lot of these guys. So you can't let up.
yeah. I agree. Do you have any fantasy football walk-up song?
No, I'm not. I'm kind of
No.
walk ups. No, I'm not flashy like that. I I'm quiet.
This
I
is
kind of
Michael.
I sneak in the back door. I come and go. People don't,
There's a song for that too. We'll
Yeah,
find it. Darren, thank you so much. That was really like refreshing, and it's such an honor. But I do have one
yeah,
more question. I do
sure.
ask in my on my podcast. So this question is, did you ever had something happening in your life, maybe at a young age, or some secret that you never ever shared on a podcast before, and you want to share it with us tonight? What would that be?
Wow. Uh, do I want to share a secret? I mean,
Yeah.
I could. So it's not really a secret, but this is something that I know that I saw. Like I was watching the other streams, and this is something that I wasn't aware of. So you were asking some of the previous guests, like, how did they get into fantasy football?
Yes.
And one of the common threads that I saw was they were saying like they would play. They're a lot of them are stats driven. Like they were always passionate about numbers. But the one thing like Howard said, Scott Engel said, and I've talked to like another industry house, they're talking about playing the Stratomatic game, which is fantasy like back in the 70s. Like they had the cards and you roll the dice. Like I
Yes.
used to do that too. So this seems to be like a common, like I played, it was called APBA, ABBA, but it was the same. It was like almost like Stratomatic. You roll the dice and you play the cards. And I would spend hours and hours doing that. And that kind of like trains your mind to like to work with the numbers. But that's interesting that
All
everybody has that, and that's not like it's not a mainstream game, but it seems to be a common thing that people, the old timers in the industry have played. So that's I would keep asking people that, like, that's a surprising pattern among the people in the industry, and that's not something that normally will come up in conversation
nice.
because people don't play those games anymore. Everything is like on the computer now, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we used to play that all the time. It's just like those guys.
Right. I love that. So before I wrap up, Darren, let our listeners know how they can connect with you online and stay updated with your work.
Right. So I'm on X or Twitter at Fantasy Mojo because I social media. I only have time for one site, and I built the following. So I know there's Blue Sky. I have an account there. I
Yes.
can't do posting like so many play and Instagram. Like I just do one because that's all I have time for. Um, so I'm on the Twitter, and then obviously the website fantasymojo.com. If you for people who are thinking about getting into high stakes, check us out. Go. There's a virtual tour on the homepage. And I always say this: if you're going to invest thousands of dollars into teams to play at that level of competition, I mean, the subscription to my website, which is people swear by it. There's testimonials on there. You can see some of the most successful players in the game have called me out unsolicited. Like, I never asked for promotion or anything like that. But if I see it, like, I'll make a note of it. But you can see it. There's a virtual tour, and you can see all the data that we offer. It's usually like ADP, draft boards, stack finders for like finding combinations of players that are out in the tournaments, a waiver wire data. You can go back, and I've got complete histories of the winners from previous years, which is one of my favorite things. So if I want to know, well, how did this guy win last year? What did he do? It's easy. You go to the winners page, you click on the guy's name, you can see his draft board, you can see what he did. And then I have all kinds of data about successful strategies. So I mean, people can say I don't promote it a lot. Like, I like to let people find me. But that's where I'm at for the most part. When I'm not in the Kings Classic or out in the Expo, but not this year, and maybe next year I would get back there. So I'm definitely out in Vegas.
Definitely.
We're doing Vegas. We're doing FFPC in Vegas this year, and I'm doing Louisville, Kentucky, the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. So if you like, it's a smaller version of the high stakes leagues out in Vegas, but it's really cool because it's like local. The entry fees are only like $300, but you get the same live event feel. So it's really good.
That's nice. And people love live events too. That's amazing.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Game Changers. I hope today's conversation gave you a fresh perspective, not just on fantasy football, but on the game of life. Mark your calendar, Brett Lanier. So hopefully I'm saying his last name right. You know I have an accent. So say it. From Better Vision returns as my featured guest next Wednesday. You won't want to miss that. Big thank you for JC for his behind the scene magic and to the Powerhouse team at TSA for making this platform possible. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us on social media. Stay connected and be part of the Sports Affiliation, a community where every fan, thinker, and change maker belongs. Until next time, keep challenging the game and making your mark. This is Carla and Darren signing off. I wish you a pleasant evening. Have a good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night.